Reading this story, which should shock everyone, frankly. This is the BBC. They're under fire yet again for misrepresentation. The broadcaster showed Donald Trump telling supporters, this goes back, of course, to the old Trump days of arguing about the election, January the 6th and the like, telling supporters that he was going to walk to the Capitol with them and fight like hell. When in fact, he didn't say that. He actually said he'd walk with them to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Let's have a listen to both versions. The first one you'll hear is the fake version. This went out on Panorama, and then it cuts to what he actually said. Have a listen.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Wow. I mean, it really does. You think, right, surely there's an explanation. Let's look further down into the story. There must be another reason for this. They clearly wasn't that. They would have explained it beforehand and said, what you're going to hear now is a clip of, no, none of that. And on top of that, by the way, BBC's Arabic news service has chosen to, quote, minimise Israeli suffering in the war in Gaza, so it could paint Israel as the aggressor. This is according to an internal report by a whistleblower. And it seems that the Telegraph in particular have got hold of clearly some information around this, and I think there's even suggestions of more stories to come. Let's speak with Rebecca Ryan, campaign director at Defund, the BBC. Afternoon to you, Rebecca. When let's just go back to the Hamas, the Gaza documentary a little while ago, when they decided to get the son or the nephew of a terrorist, essentially, to present it without telling us who the person was. I kind of thought that was the worst thing I'd ever seen in terms of journalistic malfeasance, shall we say, and just getting something horribly wrong, and the fact that it came from the BBC did make it worse. I think they should be held to a higher standard. But now I'm thinking this Trump thing is possibly the worst, because it's very hard to see, and I know my way around a newsroom, whether it's radio or television, it's very hard to see how that could not have been picked up, not just at one level or two, but maybe a dozen levels that this would have had to have gone through before it made it onto the telly. What's going on?
Absolutely, it's outrageous, isn't it? And when you've played it back there, every time I listen to it, actually, it's worse than the last time I heard. It's not as if it sort of cuts away to something and then comes back to him speaking. It's actually edited to portray that as exactly word for word what he said, because it flows so smoothly from one word to the next. And it's just really, really shocking, because it's completely changing the meaning of what he's saying. And that's just not acceptable, and as I've said, this is the BBC. They're not reporting the news, they're just manipulating it for political ends. It's not journalism, it's propaganda at this point. And as you said, also around the Gaza stuff, it's as if they've just kind of feel completely untouchable, and that they can just manipulate this content, that the vast amounts of content they've got, to just appear in whatever way they want it to, and it's just not acceptable, because it's in complete breach of their contract with the British people. In order for them to tax us for watching live broadcast TV, they have a charter which says they have to deliver journalistic excellence and impartiality, and to represent all parts of the UK. And what they're doing here is none of that. And it's just shocking, the more and more of this that comes out, because also in that report we've got as well that they portrayed Trump as saying that Kamala Harris needed to be shot in the face, when she didn't. He didn't say that at all. And this kind of violent rhetoric being pushed by the media, as we've seen, as what's happened since then. There's been an attempt on Trump's life. Obviously, Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and we've got the BBC, stoking these fires. It's really dangerous, and it's unfortunately the British licence fee payers who are having to pay for this. It's just not acceptable.
And it's hard to, as you rightly said at the beginning, every time you hear it, it's worse each time you hear it, because there's a little bit of us that thinks, well, that couldn't possibly have happened. If anything like that had happened here, if somebody had put together if we said, oh, we're going to do a debate about, you know, January the 6th or Trump and what he said in that speech, and somebody came up with a little, with a clip and said, this is the clip we're going to play, then, I mean, the work experience person could go, well, you can't play that because that's not what he said. It doesn't take even a journalist to work that out. You can very simply understand that is just not okay. And so therefore you're forced to believe that, well, it must have been deliberate then, because there's various mechanisms you can use. If you want to show highlights of a speech, you can put a little flash in between the clips, you can put a sound effect between the clips, it can slide from one to the other, so it's quite clearly a different section. The voiceover could say, here's some examples of what the president said. They could do that, which, by the way, that still doesn't get them off the hook, but they could have done. The fact that none of that was done and it went out as if that was what Trump has said is, I mean, it's frankly criminal.
It's really outrageous. As you've said, you know, any of us who know anything about editing, what have you, there's no way in the world you would even think to do something like we're completely changing the meaning of what someone said. Yes, sometimes, as you say, you're putting together a montage of clips, you might take out a bit because, you know, it's you know, got a bit boring at one point or whatever, so you sort of bring some clips together. But you can't change the meaning and portray that as, you know, the gist of what's been said. It's very. And this is, you know, the elected leader, obviously he wasn't at that time, but, you know, the former president of our closest ally. And the BBC is playing really dangerous games here because, you know, they always claim that they've got this, you know, as part of their sort of justification for the licence fee and the amount of money they have is that they've got this huge global soft power. Well, if you have that global soft power and you're aware of it, then you can't be misusing it in such a dangerous way.
Spot on. Listen, Rebecca, thank you for your time. Really appreciate that. Rebecca Ryan is campaign director from Defund the BBC. I mean, it's kind of in another territory of in a very busy territory, by the way, of unfathomable. It's kind of gone to another level, and I'd love to hear. I think the BBC said something like, "Oh, we don't comment on whistleblowers" or something of that nature. I mean, this is. Unless someone's going to come up with, I'd love to. I can't imagine what the excuse would be. Ah, yeah, but in context, I mean, really tricky to be. I did look for it on iPlayer to see if, but it disappeared. It wasn't there. It had completely gone. So it might be hard to get the full context. Maybe it's somewhere, but I can't imagine there is a context to that. It just looks ropey. It looks. It's journalistically unacceptable. That all of that is pretty odd. It doesn't even touch the sides. I mean, it's horrendous. It's absolutely unforgivable what they've done.